Do you wish you knew all those little pesky one-way smokes that you see other players abusing against you? Well, do I have some good news for you guys today. What is up, ProGuides family? It is your host, Sergeant Frost, and today we're going to be covering what we believe to be the 3 essential one-way smokes that you should be using on each map. So sit tight and let's start talking smokes. Before we get into the specific one-way spots on each map, I want to preface this video by reminding you guys that these are the ones that we feel have the highest value possible in most scenarios. Also, be sure that once you get these figured out, don't default to only using your one-ways. It's just as equally important to understand what a one-way, normal smoke, or deep smoke can do for you and your team. Make sure you're adapting your smoke and keeping them dynamic. Lastly, we'll be mainly covering smokes that are both easy to find value with and can be done with as many agents as possible, especially with the recent Brimstone buffs. You're going to want to learn how to do one-ways on as many of these agents as possible. Also, keep in mind that these will vary depending on the map design and the agent that is in play. Specifically speaking, you'll find that you'll need to pay extra attention to the one-way smokes with Viper and Omen, as they can sometimes be a little bit trickier and agent specific. Let's start this off with Bind. This map has been notoriously great with one-way options, especially on the A-bomb site. There is one for both A-short and A-showers, which can be extremely potent. Not only that, but almost every smoke agent has very viable one-way smokes that can be utilized as much as your heart desires. I'll start by covering one-ways with Omen, Brimstone, Viper, and ending it off with Jet. First, at A-short, both Omen and Brimstone can set up one-ways on the box here. Simply line up your smoke with the top of the box and it should work nicely. Brimstone's smoke is much smaller than Omen's, which means the one-way will not work as well as if it were Omen's smoke. Now let's flip it to the attacker side. I really love this one-way that hits on the boxes above triple. If you angle it to the right side of triple, it not only acts as a one-way to help you fight defenders trying to peek it from there, it also doubles down to cover the heaven line of sight for you. Moving on to B site, there's a lot less flexibility here, but I really like the one-way smoke on top of the boxes to the left of the metal container. This makes it much more difficult to swing from that side of the site. This smoke is especially useful if you notice that the enemies like to play on sight like that. Otherwise, keep throwing your smokes to cover elbow and CT by default. Like I mentioned in my opening thoughts, Viper's one-ways are entirely unique to hers. She typically requires a lineup of some sort, and this one is no different. I really like the Showers one-way smoke. To do this, you line up with this right corner right outside of Showers, aim at this 4th line on the door, and left-click your smoke. This one-way is probably the strongest one on the map. It makes attackers extremely uncomfortable peeking from Showers. There's almost no angle that they can fight back with without you seeing them first. Lastly for Bind, let's look at Jet. She is a very flexible smoker. And although her smokes are fairly small like Brimstone's, and they last for the least amount of time, her strength lies in her potent flexibility. Watch as I can replicate most of these one-ways and more. A master of Jet is capable of making one-ways at any given point on the map, so go crazy. You can check out more tips of Jet in one of our previous videos if you'd like to learn more. Next up, we've got everyone's favorite 3-bomb site map, Haven. Well, actually, Valorant's only 3-bomb site map. Anyways, let's get into the Haven one-way smokes. Starting off with one of my favorite one-ways on the attacker side for C connector, this one-way can be put on the box or pushed on top of the door. You can press R and change the Omen smoke if it helps you line up the smoke better. This can also be done with Brimstone, but again, be careful as the width with his smokes are shorter. This type of one-way is great at blocking off that common defender rotation and can help your team secure a bomb plant in the B site. The other 2 one-ways for Omen and Brimstone can be done at A-long and C-long respectively. Both of these spots have boxes set up near the opening of these 2 lanes. Push a smoke on top of either box, and now you have a great one-way that makes it difficult for enemies to push in as easily. This is great if you want to give yourself the advantage instead of smoking it off completely, which will often let the enemies creep up and execute on you without notice. Moving on to Viper. I personally love her one-way smoke that helps you control Garage, because Garage is such a hotspot that allows the enemy to split off C if they secure Garage control. This one-way is great at helping you stall or fight enemies trying to come up through the main door. All you have to do is tuck yourself into this right corner, line up with this indent of the door and left click. It's a great little one-way, and enemies who aren't willing to smoke off Garage window or use flashes will die to you holding that position. Last but not least, we have Jet. You'll notice that regardless of the map, if there is a one-way we covered, Jet can most likely do it as well. Walk about in customs and practice throwing any of these one-ways down. You would be surprised how strong they are when the time calls for them. The newest map addition of Valorant Icebox adds a lot of versatility and strange angles to the mix. Although I don't love this map, there are a few one-ways that I've seen work well in high elo. On Omen and Brimstone, you can make a mini one-way that helps to fight the A push from pipes. This is great as players trying to swing from this angle will have to deal with your barrage of bullets. A simple smoke that lands on top of this area will do wonders. Moving on to the B site, you can throw a smoke deep near enemy barriers. This is great if you hold a left angle and cover yourself from the door line of sight, which gives you free shots on those pushing through. Beware though, if you're overly exposed, you will be shot at from enemies peeking or holding from the door. Similar to Omen, Brimstone can do all of these smokes. Sometimes, I like to couple the one-way with a smoke that covers the door. Don't be afraid to use more smokes if you need them. With that said, let's talk about Viper. With Icebox still having much left to explore, I do have some neat smokes for B site. A lot of players will try to plant behind this box on B site as it's just in the plant zone. However, this one-way will potentially damage that planter and halt enemies from freely swinging that angle. If you have a molly lineup for that plant spot, you can single-handedly halt the enemy pressure for the time being. This one-way is overall great and can be picked up if you need to rotate. If you haven't noticed already, Jet is no different on Icebox either. Although this map isn't great for one-ways in general, you can do a lot of these smokes with Jet as well. I personally like this door one-way on B site, which allows me to peek any players holding the door for free. This is something that can net you a lot of information and kills in the process. Again, you want your one-ways or smokes to help you control areas or at very least stall for your team. If you aren't getting value out of your one-ways, think about other smokes, or if you need to, use more smokes to help yourself out. You guys already know what time it is. It's time for the question of the day. Today, we want to know what you guys think about the upcoming rank changes for episode 2. Are you guys excited to get a fresh start this act? I hope to see you guys shoot high for a top 500 spot and see where it takes you. There are a lot of new things coming out, so let us know what hypes you guys up the most about the upcoming episode. Moving on to the map split. This map is a little bit trickier for Brimstone, as he mainly utilizes boxes to create his one-ways. With Brimstone buffs and Omen nerfs, you'll see these agents start to get more equal playing time in the meta. I think Brimstone is a great agent for Bind, Haven, and Ascent, but he does struggle to find the same value on Icebox and Split. So do keep that in mind when picking the controller agent for each map. There aren't any Brimstone one-ways that I personally use on this map, so we'll just be covering Omen first and moving on from there. With Omen, he actually has some crazy good ones for this map. The one-way for A main is great at pressuring enemies from crossing over to the ramp or for peeking you in general. This is one of the trickiest ones to perfect, but I find using his smoke and his other R form makes it much easier. You want to line it up so the arrow turns red and gets stuck in this left wall. The next one is at B Heaven. This is extremely great for holding mid control from the Heaven side. Similar to the A main smoke, this one requires you to clip your smoke into the wall of B mailbox. I would suggest to also use his R form for this one, as it's easier to see if you're hitting the mark. Both of these are great if you expect the enemies to be pressuring you from either of these areas. You should try and position yourself to smoke it like this if you can. Viper is the queen of Split. Arguably, this is her best map. Not only are her one-ways very deadly on this map, the rest of her utility also shines on Split too. I want to cover the B Heaven one-way that's basically a better version of Omen's variation. This one grants you a full one-way on the B mail door and makes it very difficult to push into. If you couple this with some of Viper's mollies, you got yourself a recipe for success. To do this one way, simply run into the wall here, look up and right click above the door frame. I like to use this left line on the door for reference. Make sure you right click here, as many of the other one-ways I've mentioned previously are left click throws instead. Finally, we have Jet. I think her one-ways are great on this map. The one you will want to learn is how to make one-ways for vents. This one is very important because a lot of players like to play in vents. Instead of smoking it completely off, which allows a player to creep through if you push up to Heaven, instead, it puts them in a weird position where they can't really do much. This one-way is probably the most common one I see on Jet, so if you're trying to climb this act, you have to start learning them. If you guys want to learn more tips and tricks for Viper, make sure you check us out at ProGuides.com. You can chat with one of our great coaches who are available 24/7. They can guide you on your way towards mastering Viper and the game of Valorant. To wrap up this video, we have the map ASCENT. This map has one of the best one-ways in the entire game. Although we are just covering Omen, Brimstone, Viper, and Jet today, know that Cypher has some great one-ways on this map as well. Those of you who are hoping to learn about those types of one-ways, stay tuned as we would love to cover that in the near future. The one-ways you will want to know for Omen and Brimstone are at A main. Throwing it onto the left wall here makes it very difficult for the enemies to freely grab the orb. This also gives you the opportunity to creep up, fall off, or even hide in Wine Room. It's a little bit tricky of a lineup for Omen, but Brimstone should be no problem. Those of you who are not sure where to play these agents on Ascent defense, start defaulting your agent and smokes for A main. Next we got Viper. Besides Split, I would say that Ascent is definitely one of her better maps. My favorite one-way for her is at B main. Before the barrier drops, line up with this corner of the wall, and if you aim in between this spot near the roof above, it should land on the pillar of the entrance. This is great for playing around market as you can peek from there and see anyone's feet if they are peeking back. On top of that, it gives you a good opportunity to molly if they push forward, and you can use your wall to maybe help A site or cover parts of the mid area. The last one-way smoke we have for you guys today is on Jet. I hate to beat a dead horse, but she can realistically do any of the ones I've covered as well. But the one that I want to highlight is the one-way for the entrance of A site. If you're defending on site, throwing a one-way here lets you peek from green boxes and can help you secure some kills. You can also dash the generator to reposition where you can still see the one-way entrance from this right side. I can't stress how important it is to visualize these one-way smokes when playing Jet. In many scenarios, you do have the option to make them if you are prepared for the situation before it happens. Well, that's all we have for essential one-ways for all agents on each map. If you want further help, make sure you check out ProGuides.com for the best on-demand coaching available. We have great coaches who are more than willing to help you accelerate your growth to the next level. They will help you with any of your individual Valorant needs and can bring your game up to the next level. If that's not your style, make sure to check out our Discord. We have a great community where you can chat, hang out, and possibly find new friends to play with. Be sure to stay safe, and I will see you all again very soon.